So Hermann, thank you for joining us today at the Innovation Research Commercialisation in the UK Forum. Let me begin by thanking you for your insightful talk just now and for the participation in the panel discussion. Back in 2010, you called for the creation of a technology and innovation network, and the government responded to that call with the establishment of the 7 Catapult centres. It seems that there are a lot of hopes and expectations placed on those centres.
Well, I've just finished a review of the Catapults 4 years into the Catapult initiative, and as you said, we now have 7 Catapults, 2 of which are pre-existing Catapults, the high-value manufacturing Catapult and the satellite Catapult, both of which are doing very well by a number of criteria, like the number of industrial companies that are involved in high-value manufacturing. 40% of the funding is now coming from industry. The satellite Catapult has lots of relationships with small and medium-sized enterprises. In fact, so much so they had to build their own incubator to provide enough room for these small companies to exist. And the 5 completely new ones have attracted very high-quality management teams. They are now up and running, so they have set up their facilities, and the expectations, as you say, are very high, but there are no results yet because they've only just finishing setting themselves up.
As an entrepreneur and scientist, how would Catapult centres have affected or changed the way your work progressed? Had something similar been around in the 70s and 80s?
We've modeled the Catapults after the Fraunhofer Gesellschafts in Germany, and there are lots of examples of where the Fraunhofers have helped industry with translating science results out of universities into industrial products. So the whole idea of Catapults is that there are intermediate institutions between universities and industry to facilitate the transfer of science results into industry.
What do you make of the Science and Innovation Strategy's support for business-university links?
I think it's critical that there are these links between businesses and universities, because if you look at the speed with which university breakthroughs are now translated into successful products, it is becoming a differentiator or a national competitive advantage if you can do this better in Britain than in other countries, because these science results, because science is a global community, spread very, very quickly. So depending on who runs with it first, who can translate it into something useful for UK PLC, that's really become the critical parameter.
Government has focused on the 8 great technologies that they say will support UK science and business capabilities. Are the great 8 technologies useful in your opinion, or do you think that it's somewhat picking winners?
No, I think there is agreement that the 8 great technologies are the eight most important new technologies. In particular, machine learning is one of the areas that I spend a lot of my time with, and the power of these new machine learning techniques is just so great that it will have a transformative effect on a number of different industries.
There are a plethora of initiatives, schemes, organisations and others involved and interested in innovation and research commercialisation. Having worked with Innovate UK yourself, how well do you feel that one organisation can pull all of these different strings together?
I think it's very important to have a coherent strategy and a national strategy. I mean, finally, industrial strategy isn't a dirty word anymore, because we've realized that if one country does it and another one does not, the one country that has a strategy has a competitive advantage. And this is becoming more and more true as a larger part of our economy depends on innovation. And it depends on new products rather than things that we've done before. So having a strategy and having an activity concentrated in Innovate UK, I think is one of the competitive advantages of the UK vis-à-vis some of the other countries.
And is there a way that SMEs can engage with that innovation system?
Well, Innovate UK, of course, has a very strong brief and a very strong relationship with SMEs in the country. And if one looks at where a lot of the innovation gets translated into new products, it's actually the SMEs, especially when the innovation is a disruptive innovation. Incremental innovations, evolutionary innovations, fit quite well into large companies. But if something is revolutionary, is disruptive, sometimes small companies are much better at running with it and translating it into new products.
And finally, some have felt that the government's industrial strategy is somewhat wanting. What's your take on that strategy and the funding available to back that up?
Well, there are lots of different parts to the industrial strategy. What I'm very pleased about, of course, is that the Catapult part of industrial strategy is being implemented. The government has spent £500 million on the 7 Catapults, and there's every indication at the moment that the government is willing to continue to support Innovate UK and grow it as part of the industrial strategy for the UK.